plus or minus acres immediately west of Highland View Cemetery. The purchase of land was for $14,000, and it was purchased with general fund monies and not purchased with cemetery funds, although I think its intent was always to be cemetery. In 1992, the detachment did not include this parcel as part of the cemetery. The city was contacted by the township because they thought this parcel should be included with the cemetery, and the parcel may be useful for cemetery expansion. You know, the other terms of the detachment require the city to pay 50% of the annual maintenance and operations of the cemetery, and this year's payment is expected to be $48,000. Part of the requirement for determining surplus property is hearing from different departments.
It was in our name, in the township's name, for the cemetery. That additional amount, J.B. Thompson, who sat on my zoning board and was out in the township, absolutely said that they had it in writing, and I've been trying to get a hold of his son, and I've not been successful, but that had to be used for cemetery purposes. Under state law, any cemetery that lies in any municipality, the municipality is required to take care of that. So we all of a sudden that was changed back, the empty parcel, and I don't think there was any. It just was turned back, and it was quite a while before we realized that the city wasn't considering that was part of the cemetery. The cemetery is pretty well full. What we've graded off and made a few more lots, it's got us pretty well restricted. But I was under the impression when we met a few times with Mark Warba that he thought that was a rightful thing to do.
Do you know if there's any, obviously the deeds had to be transferred to the property, so has anyone done any research on?
Yeah, I think that's been done. We've gotten everything to get the deeds off. And that's why I'm trying to get a hold of J.B. Thompson's descendants to see if they've still got the document, because he was on my zoning board for quite a few years, and he said, yes, he sold it to him, and it could only be used for cemetery purposes. And so if the city doesn't have that document here, I'm hoping I can get it from that family.
Sounds like a little premature in considering this. If there's a question as to the legality of the use of this property or the ownership of the property, I don't think it's ready for us to consider yet.
I would have to agree with what you're saying. There's some type of document that was executed at the time of the sale, depending on how that property was transferred, and if that was actually part of the transfer. I think we have to have that information before we could make any type of recommendation.
Personally, I'd like to know a little bit more about what the, I hate to put it this way when you're talking about our deceased folks, but the volume, capacity of the cemetery currently is, and what their percentage of use is now.
Projections, maybe.
Well, yeah, and that as well. How soon are we going to be at full capacity? I don't think it would hurt to delay this and perhaps give Ms. McClellan an opportunity to pursue some of the documents she's spoken about tonight. If anybody wants to say anything, I'll make a motion at this time if that's possible.
Let's see if anyone else has any questions.
It's hard to be that funny when there's not a lot of facts.
Right.
Well said.
Good question.
Yeah, I agree.
Let me just say a couple things. I've been managed the cemetery for about 13 years. And so I was involved at the time Mrs. McClellan received the cemetery. And what I can tell you is that my understanding as the superintendent of Parks and Cemetery at that time was that property was to be used for cemetery purposes. I didn't see anything in writing. I don't know that I ever saw it. I'm not even sure about that I've seen the documents from Mayor Cox, but I know that all happened. But it was to be used for cemetery purposes. That was my understanding. And Maxine, you're right, the cemetery has just been in great shape for years since you've had it, so the community appreciates that. So I think that's what I have to offer tonight. So, any other comments? Can we have a motion?
Well, I would make a motion that we table this till next meeting, giving the township a chance to look for a document to state their case a little bit more clearly, and at that time we bring it back to the table and consider that.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and supported that this item be tabled till the next meeting. Is that correct? Yeah, we'll vote on it, yes. Would you do a roll call, please?
Sue Bean,
Yes.
Renato Sardina,
Yeah.
Richard Griffin,
Yes.
Jane Johansson,
Yes.
Heather Miller,
Yes.
John Schmidt,
Yes?
Tim Bobo.
Yes.